Ancient Egypt, one of the most enduring civilizations in history, continued to prosper throughout the 14th century BC. During this time, religion played a central and ever-increasing role in Egyptian life. Gods and goddesses governed every aspect of existence, from the rising sun to the flooding of the Nile. The people worshipped a vast pantheon of deities and honored them through rituals, temples, and offerings. Into this world of deeply entrenched polytheism entered a bold and controversial figure, Akhenaten. Born as Amenhotep IV, he was the second son of Pharaoh Amenhotep III and his principal wife, Queen Tiye. He only became heir to the throne after the unexpected death of his elder brother, Thutmose. Upon the death of his father in 1353 BC, he ascended the throne in the city of Thebes as the 10th pharaoh of the 18th dynasty. His marriage to the famed Nefertiti would later become a central part of his reign, as the two shared a close bond and ruled as near equals. Nefertiti bore him at least 6 daughters, though no surviving sons, and became a powerful and iconic queen in her own right. Her image, immortalized in limestone by the royal sculptor Thutmose, remains one of the most recognizable symbols of ancient Egypt. At the time of Amenhotep IV's ascension, the worship of Amun had reached a peak. Amun, revered as the king of the gods, was served by an increasingly powerful priesthood that had amassed extraordinary wealth and influence, some say even rivaling that of the royal family. The cult of Amun owned vast lands and dominated religious life, particularly in Thebes. This growing dominance may have alarmed the young pharaoh, who initially tolerated traditional worship but soon began gravitating toward a lesser-known deity, Aten. Aten, represented as a solar disk with rays ending in human hands, had existed as a facet of the sun god Ra. Even Amenhotep III, the pharaoh's father, had paid homage to Aten, though not exclusively. However, Amenhotep IV took a more radical path. He began to elevate Aten above all other gods, slowly restricting the worship of traditional deities. In the 5th year of his reign, he changed his name to Akhenaten, meaning, living spirit of Aten, signaling a shift that would forever mark Egyptian history. Akhenaten's vision was revolutionary. He declared that Aten was not just the supreme god, but the only god worthy of worship. Temples dedicated to Amun and other deities were closed or destroyed, and references to these gods were removed from monuments and inscriptions across Egypt. This sweeping religious transformation, known as Atenism, is considered by many scholars to be the world's first attempt at monotheism. However, it more accurately fits the definition of monolatry or henotheism, as it involved the worship of a single deity without outright denying the existence of others. Yet in practice, Akhenaten attempted to eliminate the old gods entirely. He banned images of all other deities, dismissed the powerful priesthoods, and declared himself the sole intermediary between Aten and the people. This act effectively positioned him as both a political and spiritual leader, concentrating immense power in his own hands. Despite this autocratic turn, Akhenaten enjoyed the support of his court, at least outwardly. Many nobles and artisans adapted to the new religious regime, producing art and inscriptions that glorified Aten and the royal family. Temples to Aten were built in a unique open air designed to allow sunlight to pour in freely, symbolizing the direct presence of the god. In the same year that Akhenaten proclaimed Aten as the only god, he commissioned the construction of a new capital city named Akhetaten, which means, Horizon of Aten. Located midway between Thebes and Memphis, the new city was a symbol of his ideological break from the past. Built rapidly using sun-dried bricks, Akhetaten, modern-day Amarna, was filled with temples, palaces, and administrative buildings, all aligned to catch the rays of the rising sun. Roofless sanctuaries allowed light to flood in, reinforcing the omnipresence of Aten. The royal family was often depicted basking in Aten's rays, a visual narrative that reinforced their divine favor. However, not everyone welcomed these changes. The aristocracy, although compliant, viewed the abolition of traditional worship as deeply unsettling. The displaced priests of Amun and other deities secretly preserved sacred texts and idols, anticipating a possible return to the old ways. Diplomatically, Akhenaten's reign marked a period of significant neglect. The famed Amarna letters, diplomatic correspondence preserved on clay tablets, reveal a ruler increasingly disinterested in foreign affairs. Allies in Canaan and Syria, such as Rib-Hadda of Byblos, pleaded repeatedly for military aid against aggressors. In one desperate letter, Rib-Hadda wrote, "Like a bird in a trap, so I am here in Byblos." Akhenaten's reply was cold and dismissive. "Why do you alone keep writing to me?" This indifference ultimately led to the collapse of Egyptian influence in the Levant and the loss of valuable allies. Meanwhile, within Egypt, Akhenaten and Nefertiti embraced their divinity, going so far as to present themselves as gods. The imagery of the time shows the couple in unusually intimate and domestic settings, a dramatic departure from the stiff and formal art of previous dynasties. Akhenaten is consistently depicted with a long face, narrow eyes, wide hips, and an elongated skull. These odd features have prompted speculation that the pharaoh may have suffered from Marfan syndrome or another genetic disorder. Yet it's more plausible that the unusual artistic style was a deliberate symbolic choice, meant to distinguish the royal family as divine and separate from ordinary humans. Akhenaten viewed earthly concerns as beneath his station. He devoted his time to religious rituals and philosophical contemplation, allowing the state to drift into administrative chaos. Grain shipments stalled, local officials acted with impunity, and the Egyptian populace suffered. Still, within the walls of Akhetaten, life continued under the rays of the sun disk. After 17 years of radical rule, Akhenaten died under circumstances that remain unclear. His body was initially buried in a tomb carved into the cliffs east of Akhetaten. Inscriptions found on a boundary stela describe his burial wishes. "Let my burial be made in it, in the millions of jubilees which the Aten, my father, decreed for me." However, his tomb was later desecrated, and his sarcophagus shattered. His mummy was likely relocated to the Valley of the Kings, though the exact identity of his remains has yet to be confirmed. The mystery surrounding his burial only adds to the enigma of his reign. After his death, two short-lived pharaohs, Smenkhkare and Neferneferuaten, briefly held power before his son, Tutankhaten, ascended the throne. Tutankhaten, born of a union between Akhenaten and his sister, was a boy king who ruled under the guidance of powerful advisors. These counselors wasted no time in dismantling the legacy of Akhenaten. They restored the old religious order, reinstated the worship of Amun, and relocated the capital back to Thebes. To solidify this return to tradition, the young pharaoh changed his name from Tutankhaten to Tutankhamun. Temples to Aten were abandoned or destroyed, and Akhenaten's name was struck from official records. His statues were defaced, and his city of Akhetaten was left to crumble under the desert sun. His successor, General Horemheb, went to great lengths to erase all traces of the Heretic Pharaoh, removing his name from king lists and repurposing his monuments for new construction. For centuries, Akhenaten was forgotten. It was not until the 19th century, with the discovery of the Amarna site and the translation of the Amarna letters, that his story was rediscovered. Today, Akhenaten is regarded as one of the most enigmatic and fascinating figures in ancient history. Modern scholars debate whether he was a visionary or a fanatic, a religious reformer or a megalomaniac. Some, like Sigmund Freud, believe he influenced the development of monotheistic religions. Freud even theorized that Moses, the Hebrew prophet, was originally an Atenist priest expelled from Egypt after the pharaoh's death. While this theory remains speculative, the parallels between Atenism and later monotheistic faiths are compelling. Akhenaten's attempt to replace Egypt's pantheon with the worship of one god was ultimately short-lived, but its legacy endured in surprising ways. Whether driven by genuine spiritual revelation or political strategy, Akhenaten's rejection of polytheism set a precedent for religious transformation. His reign disrupted centuries of tradition and revealed the power, and peril, of religious absolutism. Though his city lies in ruins and his name was nearly erased, Akhenaten's story continues to captivate the imagination, a testament to one man's radical vision and its enduring impact on the course of human history.